2. Article 28 is our second to last article this morning. It's a petition article relative to the funding for a comprehensive updating of the town's 2001 master plan. It's a petition article to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 for the purpose of comprehensively updating the town's 2001 master plan. In speaking to Article 28, it is not a petition article. It is a petition article, so if nobody wants to speak to it, petitioner, Mr. Fioli. Mr. Fioli.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joe Fioli, 331 North Main Street. We put this petition forward because the master plan for the town has not been comprehensively updated since 2001. The funding request is to have a land planning engineer, perform the study, the master plan update. We've had 2 censuses since the last master plan update. We've added almost 4,000 new residential units since the last master plan update. There's been some staff updates, some section updates. I think the last update was in 2017 by some interns. So it's time. There's been a lot of changes in town. New Hampshire Municipal Association, the Office of Strategic Initiative recommends an update every 5 to 7 years. It's been over 20 years since we've had a comprehensive update. So the funding request is to have a land agent. It's to pay for a land agent engineer to perform the update. The master plan has numerous sections for energy, utilities, infrastructure, neighborhoods, housing. It basically provides the direction and vision for the town. I think the master plan would provide some badly needed cohesion between the boards in town. It'll provide a direction, vision. People often ask me in different towns, different states, what is Salem doing? What's Salem's direction, their vision? And the master plan will help us put that forward. There's also voter participation with the master plan. The land agent will work with the planning department, the planning board, put a survey together and see what the voters want. Do the voters want more development? Do they want no more development? Do they want more green space, more recreation? So there's some voter participation here. But again, it's been over 20 years since the last comprehensive update. It's badly needed. You can see it. So that's why we put the petition forward. Thanks.
For the Budget Committee, Mr. Gatto.
The Budget Committee voted to send this petition to the voters without our recommendation.
Speaking to Article 28, the petition article, Mr. Banks.
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. Mike Banks, 25 Millville Street. I rise in favor of Article 28, to update the 2001 master plan. It's important to plan for the future in the town of Salem, especially seeing that the master plan is grossly outdated, still refers to the racetrack, and then also things like the rail trail was just a vision at that point. So it's really outdated rather. And as well, it also goes to the Economic Development Committee that was disbanded by the Board of Selectmen. I think we need to have a lot of planning. It has to be in the public purview, so it makes all the sense in the world to update the master plan. For contrast and context, I compared several towns and cities in New Hampshire with similar population and found the following here. So Derry, they just updated their master plan in 2020, population 34,317. They also have an economic committee. Dover, 32,000, just over 32,000. Their master plan was updated in 2015. They do also have an economic committee. Rochester, 32,492. Their master plan 2020, same thing, economic development committee. Merrimack, 26,632. 2013 was the last time that their master plan was updated. They also have an economic development committee. Londonderry, 25,826. 2013 as well was the last time their master plan was updated. Also have an economic development committee. Salem, 30,089. This is all based on the 2020 census population. 2001 was the last time that the master plan was updated. And of course, we do not have a economic development committee. So in closing, several articles presented here today reference updating older articles. The master plan should be treated the same way, especially when considering Salem's future with intentional planning. Thanks so much.
Speaking to Article 28, Mr. Hatch.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jeff Hatch, 35 Royal Circle. Again, I rise in favor of this article. Over the last, I don't know, I think I've been on both land use boards now for close, off and on for the last 15 years. So I've had a bird's eye view of many of the changes that have gone through in the town and how it's expanding outward. And I think especially what we need to do with this is we need to have to take a really good look at the west side of town, because that's where most of, I think, our expansion is going to be. As Mr. Banks said, you know, the old plan still talks about the racetrack. We all know the mall's not what the mall used to be, so what's going to happen with that, 10 years down the road? And what's going to happen? Well, we're going to need more schools as the town expands outward. So all that's going to come into play. And I just think it's, a document that's 20 years old. It's really, the town has outgrown it. And we need somebody to take a look at it and say, well, what's the future going to look like? And it's not only on the outside of the town. 28's still going to change, especially from the depot going north. We don't know what that's going to look like, or the Main Street area. So I just think it's a shame to say we'll wait and see what it looks like and see what it comes out like. That's just going to be hodgepodge planning, and we just need direction. That's all. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Carla Billingham, 11 Sullivan Avenue, and I am at the microphone to support this petition. I'm reminded of an expression. If you don't have a goal, any road will take you there. And for me, the master plan has always been something that I've looked for in this community, and I've been here for about 50 years. So that if we plan what we want to see Salem look like in the next several years, hopefully not putting out off to 10, but if we want to get Salem to a place where we agree it should be, we need a plan to get there.
Sir.
Yeah, Jimmy Kozat, 6 Bryan Avenue, also member of the Recreation Advisory Committee. I spoke earlier about some impediments in terms of getting some federal grants to assist in the recreation programs here in Salem, be they parks, playgrounds, etc. And one of the things that I've heard in dealing with the people from Concord with the land and water conservation funds is that when we submit some proposals for federal grants, one of the major things they look for is a master plan in terms of recreation specifically, but also for the entire town of Salem. It's not a stumbling block in the sense that it'll prevent getting some grants, but it is a major thing that they ask for and look for and would help us score that much better on some of these proposals that we would submit. So I am all in favor of a master plan, specifically in my realm with the town in the Department of Recreation, but also for the entirety of the town. Thank you.
Mrs. Corcoran.
I feel that if we don't approve this $150,000 for a master plan, it's foolish for us to put $100,000 into a fund in the town for possibility of renovations. if we had a master plan 10, 15 years ago, we perhaps may have been able to buy the 50 acres of land from the Callahans to put a town complex there. Perhaps instead of the Tuscan Village having their master plan and we follow their master plan pretty much, we should have a master plan that the Tuscan Village could use. Also, having a master plan enables us to identify by professionals who do this for across the country what should be done with roads, perhaps what type of surfaces roads should be. How many vehicles are there going to be in this town in 5, 10, 20 years? Should we have even electric charging stations? How many electric charging stations should we have in our town? I would think the Chamber of Commerce would welcome having a master plan, because if I were looking to move into Salem, either as a resident or professional business, whatever, I would want to know that this town has a master plan. Where do they want the development to go? And in this case, we do not have that plan, so the Chamber doesn't have access to that information. Bankers giving loans, I would think they would need a master plan for a major development. Developers and any other professionals. But most of all, I think it's absolutely behooves us, and I would think having a master plan would help to maintain our AAA bond requirement or evaluation more than some of the other things that we've already approved. And again, I think, I believe our town hall would support this. I believe the planning board, I believe a lot of other professional organizations, business organizations in this town. The same thing for the police and fire station. You know, should we have purchased this land 10 years ago, built a fire station 5 years ago, and this year build a police station? That's what a plan would do. There are a number of things that we've approved today that should have been in a master plan. The vehicles alternating years when they get purchased, and more. I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you.
Mrs. Laranger.
Actually, it's Miss, so
My
sorry.
apologies.
Okay. As a member of the Budget Committee, I was one of the ones that voted for this, and with the reason being my background pretty much, I've always, in any type of business or anything, you have to have a master plan. It seems to me, over the many years that I've been watching this, is the way that Salem deals with issues is very reactive. This at least gives us a plan that we can follow, a path that we can follow to go to the next level. Because things are changing, people. We're going to have, electronic vehicles or, that type of stuff. We have to realize, what are we going to do with all the gas stations that are up and down the line 10, 15 years from now when our vehicles are changing over? Just the population changes, much like what Joe said. You've got Tuscan Village, and they're still continuing to build more. You're going to have a different clientele. So you have Tuscan Village that had their own plan. This is for the rest of Salem. This is for affordable housing. You're going to need affordable housing because you have a lot of service industry here. You have to have people live here. So it gets you to think outside the box of the way that Salem has been dealing, which is not well thought out. The thing that's well thought out is the road program. Other than that, it's all reactionary. Look at the wastewater treatment plant. 30 years. 30 years. So all of these things that have cost us money every single year, you can at least plan for these expenditures going down the road. And that's all I have to say. Thanks very much. Oh, 28 Play Camp Road.
Mr. Lamson, were you able to identify that speaker's full name and address? Or she had spoken. Ms. Laranger, if you could just state your full name and address for the benefit of the stenographer.
Donna Laranger, 28 Play Camp Road.
Thank you. Speaking to Article 28, Mr. Gadu.
I love our form of government, town government. We get to do these things. And what's happening right here is that the planning department has not been able to convince the Board of Selectmen to put it in the budget for the budget committee or anybody to approve. So, because we are a town form of government, we have a citizen petition to essentially establish something that is a town government operation. I don't want to spend the money if I don't have the support of the Board of Selectmen to do that. This is good timing to spend $150,000 on an updated plan. Then I think it's not time. And this discussion really should be with the Board of Selectmen, but apparently they disagree. They've sent it to us without recommendation. And I would continue to recommend that we put this off until the selectmen have been convinced that this is a good time to spend the money on a new plan.
So again, those comments are in your capacity as a private citizen, Mr. Gatto.
Yes.
Correct? Thank you. Further discussion, back to the petitioner, Mr. Fioli.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joe Fioli, 331 North Main Street. I just want to make a few points on how investing this small sum of money is going to save the taxpayers money in the future. But I'd just like to touch on Mr. Gatto's comments. The planning department requested this to be in the budget because it's far outdated. It's been 20 years. The Board of Selectmen decided to pull it out of the budget because they wanted to wait to see on impacts from the Tuscan development. But we know the impacts from the Tuscan development. We've approved the master plan. We have the impact fees. We know the taxes. We know the development fees. So, and we've done the traffic studies. We know the impacts from the Tuscan village. So, we just feel that it's the best time to plan is yesterday, and we don't want to push the planning further out in the future. Again, to touch on others' comments, we're very reactive, and this will allow us to be proactive. I just want to make a point on the $150,000, this small investment. There's sections here in the master plan, such as utilities or energy. We're going through an energy revolution right now. We could plan to save the taxpayers money by putting solar panels on all the municipal buildings. That would drastically reduce the operating costs, the electricity operating costs for the town, and save the taxpayers tons of money on the budget. We've seen the wastewater treatment plant remediation, get pushed down the road numerous times. We know interest rates are going up. We could have planned to have that remediated as part of this master plan, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and again, save the taxpayers tons of money. So that $150,000 is a small amount to save the taxpayers money in the future.
Selectman Lyons.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I wasn't going to speak, but given that our decision has been spoken about here, I feel necessary to explain it and at least clarify some things. So a lot of the discussion here that we've been talking about here is not part of what a master plan would be, right? So some of the things are, great ideas and, some of the stuff that Elon Musk would be working on, but it's not part of what a consulting firm is going to deliver in a master plan. So when we do our budget, we have a lot of things to consider, and given what's going on at Tuscan right now and that not being built out, and we did congratulate Mr. Moldoff on his retirement, our planning department's going to be in transition, so we're going to have a lot to do this year. Our decision was to put this off a year, and I think that was the right decision. I compliment people that want to bring it forward. It is overdue. We just put out, we have in the past paid for a lot of paper. You know, we get a lot of studies, $60,000 for a study here, $80,000 for a study here. And you've got to really monitor those studies because a lot of these firms come in with templates, you know, and they populate the template, and I roll my eyes and I say, we paid 10 grand for this. So I'm not opposed to this. We are going to outsource it when we do it. But we got to be able to stay on top of it. And I think we got to get past Tuscan, and we got to see what the town looks like after we get past Tuscan before we do this, because I don't think it's an effective spend of money right now. To the other comments, thank you on the road program. I think there are some other things that we do right. We are engaged in a CIP committee. Selectman McBride, Mr. Sorensen are looking at all our buildings right now. They're doing an excellent job. We're going to see a plan for that. So the master plan doesn't address all those things. More addresses zoning, what we want the town to look like. So I think you ought to consider zeroing this out. All due respect to the citizens petition, but that is within the authority of this body. I certainly at this time would support a motion to zero out based on what I've heard. Thank you.
Are you making a motion to that effect?
Motion to bring to zero, Mr. Moderator.
I'll need that in writing, of course. And moved by Selectman Lyons, seconded by Selectman Stacy. So if I can get that in writing, and we can go from there.
Yep. Mr. Moderator, can I read that? Do you want me to read it, or just give it to you?
Nope. You can read it, Everett. Selectman McBride, you can read it.
To amend Article 28 to reduce the total appropriation by $150,000 for a new appropriation of $0.
Okay, so procedurally, I'm assuming that amendment's in order, as I would anticipate. So we are now discussing Article 28. There's an amendment that has been moved and seconded to reduce the amount to zero from $150,000. So we're discussing now the proposed amendment to Article 28. Discussion on the proposed amendment. Mrs. Caribbean.
This is not something that needs to be decided by the select board. This is an item that needs to be decided by the town, the voters of the town. It's enough that the selectmen have decided what's going on in this town, and it's time to have a master plan. We have a 10-year master road plan, which seems to be working quite well. Roy Sorensen has done a tremendous job with that. But as far as a master plan in this town, we must have one in order to move on. You've already heard the person speaking about the recreation. They would have a better opportunity to be able to get something on that. This has got to be voted by the town, not the selectmen. I do not agree with the amendment.
Further discussion on the amendment. Mrs. Corcoran or Mr. Davis?
Greg Davis, 28 Norwood Road. I guess my question is legal or procedural. How can you amend a petition? How can you zero out the dollar value of a petition that's been brought to you by someone in our community?
Because by New Hampshire law, you can. Now, you have to have the same subject matter, but can you zero it out? Yes. No ambiguity about that.
Can we put it back in?
Just wanted to know.
Great. Now, I'm going to recognize Mrs. Corcoran. She sought recognition and deferred to Mr. Davis. Mrs. Corcoran.
I actually have a question of all of you sitting on the select board. Do you have, and you don't have to answer this, but do you have a plan for your business? I would guess that most of you who either are executives or who work in organizations that have leadership, you all have a master plan, and it's always current. And what we're asking is, this is a citizen's petition. The planning board supports it. Apparently, from what I understand, many people working in the town would like it, need it, including some of the leaders in our town that are staff. I don't know how you can do this to the staff. I recall a situation recently where one of the boards did not support one of the major staff for a recommendation, and apparently since then, and perhaps before that, that person has decided to leave our town. I don't know how many of you people I'm not talking just on the board, but we're asking, the citizens are asking you to please do what the right thing is. Thank you.
There's an amendment on the floor to Article 28, which would have the effect of reducing the appropriation from $150,000 to $0. So that is the amendment on the floor. That's what we're discussing. Mr. Hatch, did you have something I forget? Call the question. Mr. Hatch would like to call the question, moved by Mr. Hatch, seconded by Selectman Bryant. And again, we're going to vote on calling the question. It requires a 2/3 vote and would have the effect of ending further discussion on the proposed amendment to Article 28. If you are in favor of calling the question regarding the proposed amendment to Article 28, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. If you're opposed, no.
No.
And I indicate that that is well over 2/3. So now we are going to vote on the proposed amendment. I'm going to read it again. It's an amendment to Article 28, which states to reduce the total appropriation by $150,000 for a new appropriation of $0. So next we are going to vote on this proposed amendment. If you are in favor of the proposed amendment to Article 28, which effectively zeroes out the money for this article, please indicate by saying aye. And opposed? No! So I love this because it's an opportunity for me to require, for certainty, a standing vote count. And it also gives us an opportunity to see at approximately 1:15 in the afternoon who's still here. So in and of itself, that's a little bit concerning, either who's here or why it's so little amount of people. So I would like Mr. Carney, could you go to the far one? Ms. Wall, could you do the middle? Mr. Scanlon, could you count the right hand where you're sitting? Ms. Sorcinelli, could you count that whole back quadrant? And Patricia, could you get the back quadrant, the maskless section? Pat? Yes. So, we are doing a standing vote count. We are talking about a proposed amendment to Article 28, which would have the effect of zeroing it out. If you are in favor of the amendment to zero out Article 28, please stand so now. I will. Yeah. Thank God. Okay, so has everybody got a count? 2, 4, none.
Somebody needs a hearing test.
I could get my wife to swear to that in court, so I have no doubt about that. The noes, if you are opposed to this amendment to zero it out, you're opposed to the amendment to zero it out?
Really, Chris?
Hey, we're going to find out how many people are here, Pat.
Really?
I'm sorry. So, Melissa? 6, 9, 1, 8, 17, 24. So the good news is there are 35 people that voted in this. Either way, you can sit now. And it was, the noes have it 24-11, and so the amendment fails. Yeah, 35. And to your point, Pat, it's a lot easier to loudly say no than it is aye.
I know.
Yeah. You're able to enunciate it fairly loudly either way, so that's
Not
good.
really.
Yeah. Fair enough. So now we are back to discussing Article 28 as printed in the warrant. Seeing no one seek recognition for Article 28, I'll refer Article 28 as printed in the warrant to the town clerk for inclusion on the ballot to be voted upon March 8, 2022. We are down to our last